Natalia, thank you very much. And it's always wonderful to hear Natalia speak, but she gives us the raw data. She puts it all in context, and she makes it very clear not only where we need to invest, how, who, when, and how much, which is invaluable. So while we do a little bit of a setup before our next panel, I wanted to share something with you all. When we look at Natalia's results and we focus on where is investment going, it's very clear that it's going to traditional destinations, places that are already active in tourism. But what about the rest? What about the other places in the world that we know need the benefits of tourism, need to see the environments being protected, need community engagement? What about the rest? Which is why on World Tourism Day, just a few weeks ago, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the UNWTO announced a new initiative. It's the Tourism Opens Minds Pledge. And it's a pledge that connects governments, industry, as well as travelers to commit to exploring new places. Because when YouGov did some research, they found that almost 80% of travelers prefer the familiar. And 50% of travelers didn't like the idea of going somewhere they didn't know about. Then how do we connect communities? How do we connect the benefits? How do we connect the world through tourism? So this pledge is a call to action. And if you all, after the forum, go to unwto.org, you'll find the pledge there. And it is simple language that says that we will do our best to make sure that we are promoting, we are investing in the other places that people need to explore, to be able to disperse tourists, to disperse the investment, to disperse the opportunity to connect communities and economies through tourism. So we ask you, please do look at that. It is incredibly important, and it is for all of us. We now go into our next session, which is the ministerial dialogue. And it's an important one because it brings together the decision makers of how we are going to make sure that we're building a stronger future together through tourism. We have in our audience today a number of incredible ministers from around the tourism world who are going to speak very openly and very honestly about the opportunities to not only invest in tourism, but them connecting with the rest of the world. So we're going to be looking very closely at that question. How do we connect the world through investing tourism? Sustainable tourism and tourism sustainably being invested in. So as we pull the chairs together, I'm going to hand over the panel and the stage to a very dear friend of ours, moderator Junfeng from CGTN, who's going to be leading this next panel and bring together, again, some of the best decision makers we have in the tourism world to make the tourism world work harder. So I'm going to ask the podium, please, be taken over by our next moderator, and I welcome him to the stage. Mr. Junfeng, please join us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're here.
Yes. Thank you.
Sorry,
Excellent
it's all
presentation.
yours.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Junfeng. I'm from China, as you can see. I don't see many Chinese people in here, but it's my honor to be the MC for today's first panel discussion, which is a high-level dialogue between ministers talking about investment in tourism and also the promotion of a model of people, planet, and prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, I come from a country where there's a lot of people, 1.4 billion people. That's why I've been reading news about China's recovery of tourism in the past few weeks, especially during the first week of October. That's China's Golden Week holiday. Let me share some data with you. 800 million Chinese traveled during the 8-day National Golden Week holiday, spending over $100 billion. $100 billion. That's slightly higher than the pre-pandemic 2019 level. So that news I read officially announced recovery of China's tourism sector, domestic tourism sector in particular, to recover from the pandemic, 3-year-long pandemic. I think that largely thanks to the fact that China's infrastructure is quite advanced. We're talking about those airports around the whole country. China has some of the world's biggest airports, and also the railway system that collects the whole country. You may be aware of China's high-speed rail, which can run at 350 kilometers an hour. linking multiple big cities, and also highways very extensively around the country, where we can see millions of electric vehicles running, reducing carbon footprint. And as you may also aware that currently now from the 17th to 18th, China in Beijing is hosting a very international, very high-level international summit, the Belt and Road Initiative. There are at least 2 points I can connect Belt and Road Initiative with tourism. One is the infrastructure overhaul, the accessibility, connecting different places with the overhaul of transportation infrastructure, and two, people-to-people exchanges. As I understand it, the tourism investment at least should embody 5 points. One is accessibility, the transportation system. 2 days ago, I was happy to be the first group of Chinese travelers to be able to travel from China's Xinjiang's Urumqi directly to Samarkand, the first debut flight from China, west of China, to Samarkand. I really enjoyed it, although they were a very small group. I think in the long run, it will gradually grow. That's accessibility. And two, accommodation. I think you and I are also enjoying our accommodation in the hotels surrounding these facilities, 5-star hotels. We really enjoy the stay with very modern renovation. And also, third, the reservation of heritage, the renovation and reservation of scenic spots. You may have visited downtown some very beautiful UNESCO heritage sites. Beautiful architecture is being kept very clean and beautiful. Uzbekistan has done an excellent job in that. And fourth, services. We've seen smiling faces of Uzbekistan people at the airport, even on the street, waving to us. We have many volunteers smiling to us, always ready to be helpful. We also enjoyed the visa services that was mentioned by the Uzbek government officials that allow me and my colleagues to be able to travel at very short notice to Samarkand. Also, we have very unique, special dining services last night. I think people are enjoying it. Are these all the services? Also, environment protection. We see this country so beautiful, so clean skies, clean water, and so clean roads. I think environmental protection ideas are being applied through all these elements. Of course, there are many other elements. That's why I'm going to invite a number of guests to come to the stage to discuss on this high-level dialogue. I'd like to invite on the stage Her Excellency Ms. Fatim Zahra Amar, Minister of Tourism, Handicrafts and Social and Solidarity Economy from Kingdom of Morocco. Please come to the stage. Her Excellency Ms. Rosa Ann Moreno Rodriguez, Secretary of State from Spain. Her Excellency Ms. Mariela Combraro Fucci, Minister of Tourism and Environment from Albania. And His Excellency Dr. Abdullah Munsun, Minister of Tourism from Maldives. And His Excellency Mr. Arturo Bravo, Vice Minister of Tourism from Colombia. As well as Ambassador Khusrav Nozli, Secretary General from Economic Cooperation Organization.
Yeah,
thank you. My first question would go to our guests, Ms. Amor from Morocco. Yeah? It will be about what kind of incentives your governments are putting in place to support investment in tourism.
Thank you for this question. And do you hear me? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I'll give, first of all, some context about Morocco. So tourism is a key contributor to the Moroccan economy. It accounts for 7% of the GDP.
Oh, 7%?
7%
That's a lot.
Of the GDP, and it generates $9 billion of revenues in foreign currencies. But we estimate its contribution to be more around 11 and 12% if we take into account the other sectors that depend directly on tourism, like handicraft, for example. It employs 5% of the active population, which is a little bit more than 500,000. But here again, if you take into account handicraft, it's an incremental 2.4 million. So it's a lot. The investment has been growing over the past years at quite a fast pace, with a 5% growth per year, including the crisis period of COVID, which is quite good. And we have the major hospitality big brands present in Morocco. So this is really for the context. Currently, Morocco is experiencing really a huge momentum, thanks to the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, who has been really leading the growth of the country across all sectors over the past 2 decades. It's an ideal environment for doing business because it's a secure and safe country. It's a stable country. It has achieved significant economical growth and social progress. It has modern infrastructure. It has launched many reforms, like, for example, the health care for all Moroccans, which is being implemented currently. And there is a high interest from international and national investors in Morocco. To give you some figures, we have opened more than 100 hotels in 2022 in Morocco. So in terms of incentives, what has Morocco to offer? 3 things. First of all, the new government came with a new investment charter to enhance the attractiveness of the country. It gives simplified procedures and a very competitive framework. It gives, for example, a cashback up to 30% of the capex, depending on criteria like the location of the project, whether it's sustainable or not, or the number of jobs it creates. Also, it gives exemptions on VAT for 3 years and a tax exemption for 5 years. So it's a very competitive framework. Also, the second thing is that we have a new sovereign fund that has been launched by His Majesty King Mohammed VI, which is here to support development of productive sectors like tourism, among which tourism. So it gives long-term financing in the form of equity or quasi-equity. Also, we have a dedicated agency, which is called SMIT, which assists the investor really from the beginning of the project to the end, so the whole process. So I think that these 3 things may make the environment very, very competitive for investors. And just to understand the objective of the government is not only to make Morocco attractive, but also to reverse the ratio between public investment and private investment. Today in Morocco, we are at a 2/3 public investment. We want to move to a 2/3 private investment.
From public to private, yes. And I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate Morocco for successfully hosting the World Bank and the IMF sessions. It's got huge international media exposure. We've also watched a lot of episodes from that, and a bit of Marrakesh, right?
Yeah.
That's where it's being held. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And my second question is to Ms. Rodriguez from Spain. Yes? Because a lot of people are quite familiar with Spain, famous for the Southern Europe enthusiasm, the nice weather. Many European and international travelers are very familiar with your famous cities, Barcelona, everything. I'd like to ask a key question that's also the focus of today's discussions. How do you balance government policies, investments, on big projects, and also encourage private investments, private small businesses, as our previous officials from UNWTO shared that most of the investments are done by micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. We see, have had honor to visit Spain, lots of these small shops, small restaurants, dining and entertainment experience are provided by small companies.
Gracias. Primero, buenos días.
Thank you. First of all, good morning.
Quiero agradecer
I'd like to thank the government of Uzbekistan for the kind invitation to hold the General Assembly in this country and to thank them for the warm welcome. Thank you very much. To set the context of what's happening in Spain, in 2019, Spain received around 900 million tourists. The contribution of tourism to the GDP of the country is around 12%, but the indirect impact is much more, given that tourism drives other sectors, such as the primary sector. So tourism is very important to the Spanish economy. Currently, the challenge that Spain has is how to improve destinations that are already popular and have already been destinations that have been successful for a long time, where what we're trying to do is not necessarily increase the volume of tourists, not necessarily increase the scale or make them more touristy, but rather create the quality in those destinations and to encourage the investments that we want to increase the quality of tourism services as well as the quality of jobs, because those two things are inextricably linked. The other part of the challenge that we face is the parts of Spain that tourists don't know. There are great tourism destinations that we have, but that currently are not so popular, not as popular as Madrid, Barcelona, or the cities on the coast. But they represent a very rich cultural and food heritage that we want to share. We want people to know about them when we want to attract investment to those destinations. What the government's doing is to trying to work on this area. And since 2021, within our recovery plan, we've made an investment of 3.4 million, or rather 3.4 billion euros that are earmarked just for tourism. That's the largest investment that a Spanish government has ever made. And this investment is targeted on increasing sustainability, not only in environmental terms, not only in economic terms, but also in social terms. What do I mean by that? We're looking at the areas of Spain, the rural areas that aren't so popular from a tourism point of view, or the areas of Spain that don't have as much population, but also looking at those destinations that are popular to ensure that the success that we have doesn't mean a reduction in the quality of living of our own citizens. So what we're trying to do is create this coexistence between tourists and the local population. We're also trying to ensure that the investments that we have ensure that tourism helps the more rural, less populated areas, and that it creates jobs and it creates wealth. So through this project that we have, it's a very fascinating and interesting project, and we're trying to make progress through that way. Thank you.
My question is to Ms. Fucci from Albania. Actually, I don't know too much about Albania. Yeah, it's a Balkan country, right?
I'm not surprised.
Tell us about your country's characteristics in the resources of tourism. How are you going to boost investment, focusing on your advantages and differentiate from neighboring countries?
Thank you very much. Before answering your question, let me please make some question to the honorable public. That as you started, who has never been in Albania?
Who has been? Oh.
Wow, I'm again surprised.
Well done.
Thank you, but not as much as we can imagine.
Let me ask.
Yeah.
Who has been to China? Oh.
You see?
That's quite a lot. Yeah, a bit more.
Okay.
Bit more. Yeah.
Do you know what we are talking about? We are making a, let's say, a competition between China and Albania.
Yeah.
So I'm following with my second question. Who knows where Albania is? Okay.
That's good.
So let's start, as an old professor as I am, with a little lesson of geography. Albania is a small country just in front of Italy, 2.8 million inhabitants, 28,000 kilometers square in the north of Greece, in the south of Montenegro and Croatia, in the Mediterranean area. A perfect crossroad between east and west, and a perfect coexistence of three religions in perfect harmony with Christian Catholic, Christian Orthodox, and Muslims. Maybe the unique country who has done maybe a lot of mistakes in the history, but never conflict with ethnic or languages or cultural basis. So this is Albania just to start for creating some emotion, some feelings, because when we have only the words to explain what my country is, I have to use it some emotional elements, as the General Secretary said before. And now some datas. Okay, Albania, 2.8 million inhabitants, has hosted in 2023 till September 8.3 million of international tourists. So Albania is a small country, but having the big chance to be in beautiful areas, to have third-fourth of the territory, mountains, forests, and rivers, more than 450 kilometers of coastlines, just in front of Italy, sharing two seas with Italy and Greece, Adriatic Sea and Ionian Sea. Of course, it's a country where tourism is becoming one of the two most economic sectors, together with agriculture. And having such big numbers for the moment, 8.3 million of international tourists, is a big challenge. So it's a big challenge because, as you see, I'm not just only Minister of Tourism, but also Minister of Environment, which means a kind of schizophrenia, let's say. It's a unique case maybe to have tourism and the environment under the same roof, which is not so usual. But the idea is for our government to create a kind of check and balance, to develop in a sustainable way the tourism, which is very important to us, very important for Albania, but also to protect the environment for a country where the energy production is 100% renewable. 100% renewable. Is the only country in the region having such a big challenge, only by hydro plant. And now we are developing photovoltaic and energy by wind. But for having the tourism as the second or the same important sector as the agriculture, we have created a legal framework for encouraging investment on tourism, domestic or foreign investments. Just to have you some other data, to give you some other data, like the TAV for the hotels, every kind of category, structured accommodation, small hotel, guest house, or big five-star hotels like Hyatt, like Melia Group, like international hotel groups like Marriott, maritime hotels, etc. We have 6% instead of 20% for every hotels. And on the other side, we have created a legal framework for the so-called strategic investors in the tourism sectors, which means that for the strategic investments, more than 10 million euros, 15 million euros, 30 million euros in tourism, we are offering zero tax of infrastructure, zero tax of construction, and zero tax from the benefits for 10 first years. So just some elements in order to give you an idea why it's interesting to come in Albania. But we have another reason also. Albania is combining in a so small territory everything that our slogan is Albania, all you need is here. Not here, but there in Albania. Because we have more than 5 sites from UNESCO, which culture heritage, one of the biggest archaeological park of UNESCO in the south of Albania, with beautiful landscapes, and recently 21%, more than 21% of the territory protected area. And talking about the protected area, which I'm so proud to talk about, we have in Albania also the last wild river of Europe. which is already a national park. We have maybe, if we are Googling somewhere, I'm seeing some of you Googling in the phones, just ask for the last wild river of Europe, called Vjosa, where it is. It's in Albania, as a national park, attracting thousands and thousands of visitors. When we are often talking about ecotourism and tourism, maybe it's better to talk about how to make every kind of investment in tourism eco-friendly. And this is our challenge, and this is what we want to do. Sometimes for countries who are new entry in the tourism market, it's easier to do it than the classical destination that has started to be classical destination of tourism 1 century ago, 6 years ago. So lesson learned from our big brothers and sisters that are already classical destination. We are not competing with anyone. I think that Mediterranean area, Balkans, Europe, but all the world, we are complementary to each other. So I'm inviting every one of you to come and visit us in Albania, where all you need, you can find it there, in my country.
Great,
Thank you.
So you're saying that every year there are more tourists, the population of tourists is larger than your own population residents, right?
More than 4 times.
More than 4 times.
Till the end of September. We will
Okay.
see, I will be back to you by the end of year.
Okay, I guess there's another country on this stage that may be able to beat that proportion. That will be Maldives, right? Yeah, this gentleman, Mr. Malsun from Maldives, is going to let us know about this ratio. How big is the ratio of global tourism to your population?
Thank you. It's going to be about five times.
5 times,
Yeah.
okay. And what is the biggest challenge? Is it accessibility, you know, how international travelers can get to your country, or is it about the accommodation capacity, or is it about the seasonal changes where the high season management and low season management becomes a challenge? Tell us about the challenges.
Yeah, thank you. But first of all, let me thank Uzbek government and people for the warm hospitality accorded to us. And I think Maldives, the challenges we have, we look at as opportunities. Because Maldives is the leading destination 3 times in a row now. And of course, we have had challenges. I think the biggest investment right now we are focusing on is infrastructure development, as His Excellency Mr. Aziz mentioned. Connectivity is something that we really have to focus on, because Maldives, the beautiful islands, people need to travel from one point to the other. Coming to Maldives itself is okay now. We have got 2 international airports right now functioning. Another 2 will come. But inter-transport is tougher.
Okay,
So we
between the
have
islands, yeah?
Yeah, so we have seaplanes, the largest fleet in the world. And also we have got now the transport network on the sea that works like tube from one island to the other. And also a lot of domestic airports.
Is it mostly your government's investments, or is it private investment or even overseas investment into this infrastructure?
Yeah, because tourism is our lifeblood, and government wants to make sure that people are engaged in tourism. And to make people engaged, we have our traditional resorts that everybody is aware of, one island, one resort concept. But the smaller islands, we needed each island to have the infrastructure. So each island has to have its own electricity, water supply, storage system, waste management system. So to ensure that we have a sustainable, environmentally sustainable mechanism of development, we let the government takes a lead role in doing this. But small country like Maldives, always short on funds. We rely on a lot of support, international support. Now we have managed to have this in all the islands, and that enables economic activities to happen where investors can come. And I think it is very important that we focus on small investments, because the big investments are there. The Maldives itself is an incentive, and we have got brands from all over the world. But I think banks also tend to lend money if the company is rich. If the company can prove that they don't need money, banks lend it. But it's the smaller companies that have tough challenges. So government is focusing on getting finances for finance for small and medium businesses that can be established in the islands, so that women folk and the island community can thrive from tourism.
Yeah, that definitely needs more precise management of these borrowing tools to small companies. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing. My next question is to Mr. Bravo from Colombia. I also don't have much experience in Latin America. Tell us about your country and the advantages or characteristics of your resources in tourism, and how are you going to push out incentives to boost them?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Zheng, for your question, and I also would like to thank the government of Uzbekistan for inviting us and organizing this high-level forum for the UNWTO, and for inviting us ministers to talk about the challenges and also the things that we have in common, the things that we do to promote investment, more socially focused investment, also more sustainable investment and regenerative investments. For those who don't know my country, Colombia is the surprise of Latin America. We are seeing a great amount of growth in the years 2022. We welcomed about 4.5 million tourists. We still have a long ways to go, but we are definitely on an upward slant. And we also have recovered. We can say that we have recovered to pre-pandemic levels, which is a significant achievement indeed. And we were able to quickly re-attract tourists. In Colombia, Colombia is a destination that is known for its super diversity. It's one of the most diverse nations in the world. We have a country that is rich in natural resources and different climates and ecosystems, and culturally diverse as well, which allows us to offer different types of touristic experiences. We have a coastline that's on the Caribbean Ocean, southern Caribbean. We also have Pacific coastline, and we also have the Amazon and Andes ecosystems. And all of this means that we can really offer very different experiences, but also people can invest in not just tourism, but agriculture and infrastructure. We have some large cities, such as Bogota, which has a population of 9 million people. That's our capital. We also have other large cities between 2 and 3 million inhabitants. So Colombia is a Latin American country that has different types of cities, different size of cities that attract different types of domestic flows of tourism as well, because in Colombia, it's the domestic market that really supports the tourism investment. And our government, our national government, as I said, is focused on creating a more sustainable, regenerative tourism. We want to strengthen the idea of, and really underscore the idea of sustainability and sustainable tourism, something that will really contribute to regenerating our ecosystems. Currently, in Colombia, we are very aware of the climate crisis and how that affects us. We see that the increase in global temperatures, how it affects us, and also the El Nino climate phenomenon has a big impact in Latin America. And so we are committed to fighting the impacts of climate change by focusing on regenerative tourism, green investments. We also want to develop capacity building, as the UNWTO said. They are focusing on investing in the 3 Ps. People is one of the main Ps, and improving training, knowledge building. And that's one of the tools that we have in our toolbox that will allow us to be more competitive compared with other regions. And we're really focused on our human capital. And our different investment mechanisms are in line with what I've just said. So we have all kinds of incentives. For instance, we have different fiscal and tax advantages to invest in areas that were particularly affected by the armed conflict. And we are really actively trying to work on the aftermath of that and worked on the peacekeeping process, and also to develop those areas that were previously effective, because they really have huge potential, those areas to, for instance, for ecotourism, for observing wildlife. And so we also have a focus of peace and tourism. And we have, for instance, some tax abatements that go up to 10 years to promote investment there. There are also different kinds of incentives for sustainable investments, especially in different alternative energy sources rather than relying on traditional energy sources. And we have tax credits for that. We are other types of investments, special investments. For instance, where we have no sales tax in certain areas where they want to build certain hospitality buildings or hotels and that sort of thing. And we also have other duty-free or sales tax-free types of investments. So those are just different ways in which Colombia is really focused on a more inclusive, open-minded tourism that is also aimed at improving the quality of life of our diverse communities, because we firmly believe that it can help the economic development of our country. It is the second largest economic sector in our country after the energy sector. And so we really also have a connection between promoting tourism and going towards an economic transition. And we firmly believe that these different types of incentives, for instance, the UNWTO focused on our different investment package, which has more than 45 different elements to try to attract and invest in tourism in our nation. And we believe that tourism can really be a tool for peace building and sustainable development in our nation. Thank you.
Thank you for the very thorough explanation. And my last question to Mr. Norzili from Economic Cooperation Organization. This is a tricky question, but every investor have to consider. I'll throw this question to you. I think you're a very well informed person. That is, for international investment into tourism, there's always dilemma between over-investing and face future debt problems, or delay in investment and miss opportunities of influx of tourists. So in your observation or in your understanding, how to deal with this, how to mitigate risks on both sides, how to deal with this dilemma?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, we don't.
Mr. Moderator, and I first of all,
Can we hear him? No? Do you need to switch it on? Yeah.
First of all,
you can hear him? Okay.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, let me express my deepest gratitude to the government of Uzbekistan and also to UNWTO for inviting the Economic Cooperation Organization to this huge international gathering. First of all, maybe most of people don't know what is the Economic Cooperation Organization. We are the intergovernmental organization of 10 member states, including the host country, Uzbekistan, the remaining all 4 Central Asian countries, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, neighboring Afghanistan, plus Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, and Azerbaijan. It's 10 member states. By the way, one of the oldest regional intergovernmental organization, and we are headquartered in Tehran of Iran. It's a big territory. It's the region spans to more than 8 million square kilometers, roughly 8 Egypts, where I served as ambassador before. And the population now currently more than 500 million. So it's a relevantly big region, and the main goal of establishing this organization was to facilitate the economic cooperation in the region. But lately, the tourism sector became the one of the priority areas for our activity, because as we see, tourism sector can contribute greatly to the economic development of the region. We have created the special mechanism for coordinating our efforts in tourism sector, which is ministerial meeting on tourism. And the last 5th ministerial meeting was convened in the city of Ardabil in Iran, and before it was chaired by Uzbekistan during the 4th ministerial meeting, where we adopted Samarkand and Ardabil declarations. So in pre-pandemic decade, we had very good numbers in terms of receiving international tourists to the region. It exceeded 87 million people. Of course, the COVID-19 had a very negative impact on our tourism sector, but now we are recovering and coming back to the previous numbers. On why this region is attractive to the international tourism. First of all, I would like to say that this region hosts 89 tourist sites which are in the world in UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So before the meeting, important meeting in Riyadh, we had a number of 49. Now it's increased, and some new sites were added to the list of the World Heritage Sites which the region hosts. The promotion of investments, one of the priority areas of our activity. In 2022, we succeeded to attract more than about 87 billion US dollars to the region, and of course the significant part of this foreign investments goes to the tourism sector. There is some mechanisms to attract more, and we are now working in the framework of our roadmap, which we adopted in the region to recover from these impacts. Now we have a network of 6 cities, starting from Dushanbe, capital of Tajikistan, for 2021, then cities of Sari and Ardabil of Iran, next Shahrisabz of Uzbekistan, next Erzurum of Turkey, and lastly, recently, during the highest decision-making body, which is the Council of Foreign Ministers, held in the city of Shusha of Azerbaijan. The city of Shusha also was declared the tourism capital of ECO for 2026. So, in taking this opportunity, I would like to invite international tourists to our region and enjoy the beauty and the historical and cultural heritage, cuisine, and etc.
Thank you so much. Yes. Well, due to the time limit, I'd like to wrap up the session, inviting each of the guests or saying about one line, wrapping up your idea about how tourism can continue to be resilient and at the same time sustainable. Starting from you, Lady.
Well, first of all, I would like, if I need to wrap up, I would say that today we have a strong momentum in Morocco under a strong leadership of His Majesty and a strong drive from the government. We have real motivation to build tourism because we have an objective, a vision to reach 26 million by 2030, which is about plus 2 million per year, because we are hosting the 2030 World Cup in Morocco, along with Spain and Portugal.
That's big news.
So yes, so we have big ambitions, and we need really to build capacities. We need investors to invest in entertainment, but we want to do this, as I said, in a sustainable way, because we know that our tourism relies on natural resources, and we want to make sure that Morocco remains an attractive but eco-conscious destination for the future generations.
Great. Look forward to 2030 Morocco Football World Cup very much.
Thank you.
What about Maldives?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I have good news for you. China is going to be the leading market for Maldives before the end of the year.
I know that.
Yeah.
It's always Chinese travelers' dream to spend holiday there.
Yeah, in Maldives we have always had plain tourism. So it was very important to maintain our environment and make sure that benefits go to the people. We just launched our 5th tourism master plan that takes tourism to the next level. I think forward planning is very important, that we focus on saving the environment and also giving benefits to the people. That is the focus of it. One major issue I just wish to highlight is human capital is a big challenge for Maldives too. And we wish to invest more on that and also empower the local communities by really utilizing Maldives tourism product for the new tourists who wish to engage in heritage and culture tourism.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. A master plan. I really like that master plan in tourism from Maldives. What about Spain?
We believe we also have a master plan for 2030. And this master plan has been done together with the collaboration of the private sector and also the academia. So it's more than 250 actors participating on the Spanish tourism sustainable strategy for 2030. But I would say that tourism will only be or remain a competitive industry in the future if it becomes fully sustainable. And again, environmentally, economically, but really important for us, socially sustainable. So I think this has to come into the DNA of the public policies and also the private procedures, policies and actions to make sure that tourism is still a competitive and successful industry in the future.
Robust and sustainable. And what about Colombia?
Obviously, in Colombia, our objective is to develop tourism, and it is one of the elements that will make our environmental transition possible. We definitely have an eye to the future, and we feel that there are 4 key words that we have to focus on. Number 1 is we have to democratize tourism and include people that still aren't able to travel, and to reach communities that haven't been able to benefit from tourism development. So inclusion is number 1. Number 2 is how do we strengthen the different region and so that they can take on our plans. So we have to invest in infrastructure, and how can we accompany these regions locally and apply national policies at the local level. And the third, as my colleagues here said, is to focus on sustainability, but at the same time with an eye to the energy transition that our country and the world in general has to be doing, and also to mitigate climate change as part of that sustainability. And finally, we want to focus on tourism that is, as we like to say, in harmony with life. How do we respect our environment? How can we be more responsible with our tourism? Because everyone must be committed, because we're all in this together in this industry, and we all need to work together on internationalizing this dialogue, taking advantage of forums like this one to talk about and about the future of tourism, which is something else that we are going to talk about at this assembly. And so these are our missions with an eye to the future. Those are the 4 points of inclusion: sustainability, regionalization, and internationalizations are all ways to make our tourism sector more attractive.
Already 100% renewable energy, very sustainable. How are you going to move next?
But next, I think it's important to communicate a lot. We have to explain to the investors why sustainable investment in tourism are important. So why sustainable investment are benefiting everyone. And I think we need a lot of communication. Sometimes we are tempted to say, no, you cannot do this, that you cannot do that because of sustainability, because of the protection of the environment. We have to try the opposite way.
Education.
To communicate, to educate, to explain why sustainable development is more benefiting not only the local community but also the
not
big
just
investors.
Cost, but benefits.
Second is we are doing a lot of investment on infrastructure. And just to give you another data, in Albania we are start with Elmar Group, which is the big investors, Mohamed Alabar, the biggest marina in the Balkans.
Yes.
So in 2 years we will have it in order to attract another kind of tourism. Third, the last but not the least, investing on local communities, agritourism and food. Local food is another important model for tourism.
Great idea.
Sometimes you can come in Albania or in other part of the world just to taste the food because it's filling, it's emotion, it's pleasure. And all of this is a package of how to experience a country. Tourism is mostly experiencing Uzbekistan now, experiencing Albania. So everything what we are experiencing, it's a part of the country that we can take with us. So this is sustainability.
Thank you so much. And now the last but not the least, Economic Cooperation Organization.
Thank you.
Briefly, thank you.
For us to develop, further to develop intra-regional tourism
interregional.
Yeah, in ECO is the development of interconnectivity is of utmost importance. For example, to attend this meeting, instead of direct flight from Tehran to Samarkand, I needed to go first to Dubai, and from Dubai come to Samarkand. So in our region, we have a program to interconnect all major cities of our organization by air, by rail, by road, not only to develop our economic cooperation, but also further to contribute to the development of the sector of tourism, which is very important for our region.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, due to time, I have to wrap up. I understand that each of the representatives from their country representing their tourism sector would love to take this opportunity to tell you more about their splendid countries and the very robust growth of the industry, but we have time limitation, and another batch of, another group of guests would come up to share their insights. Thank you so much. Again, applause to our guests on the stage. Thank you.
And a very warm thank you for our lovely moderators. Sir, thank you for giving us a world of perspective. Honorable Ministers, we're very grateful to have had you here. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah. We have limited time, but we'd like to welcome to have some off-stage communication. We keep on talking for the next few days. Thank you. Thank you.